Hi, everyone, and welcome to Bridging the Gap. I'm your host, Kelly Lovell, and this week I'm joined by our expert guest, Ingrid Vanderveldt. And she's going to be here to talk to us a little bit about her work, particularly with themes of women entrepreneurs, for sure. Ingrid is the founder, chairman, and CEO of Vanderveldt Global Investments. She is an advisor, change agent, and business innovation strategist to startup CEOs and C-level executives at top corporations. Ingrid is currently leading a global movement to empower 1 billion women by 2020. Her goal is to provide women with access to financial literacy and mentorship tools to help them succeed as leaders and entrepreneurs. I'm excited to have you on our show today, Ingrid.
Thank you. It's so good to be here, Kelly. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Could you perhaps start us off by sharing a little bit of how you got started in your journey and on your, I think, very worthy but also grand mission?
Thank you. Well, I think, Kelly, what I would say is my journey started out as a kid when I was a very young child, literally about 4 years old. I really knew even then, I had this deep sense of knowing that I thought I'd be a missionary when I grew up. And it's funny because, now I feel like a missionary of a different kind. But I knew as a child that I always wanted to help women and girls thrive to be there and live in their fullest potential. I just didn't know what that was going to look like as a child. And so I went through many, many, many experiences as I continued to grow up and get older. I was, as a child, I had learning disabilities. People told my parents that I would never make anything of myself, sort of these challenge after challenge after challenge. And I learned very young that when you surround yourself with the right people, and in my case, it was my parents growing up that were just so supportive and so encouraging. And when other people didn't believe in me as a child because I had learning disabilities, and it actually turned out to be hearing problems that we could solve. And once we solved those, I was able to grow and thrive. But I learned very early on the power of how important it is to surround yourself with mentors, if you will. And in my case, again, it was my parents. And as I got older, and once I got over sort of, we knew it was the hearing problems that were holding me back. We solved that and I was able to really thrive. And I took all of those opportunities into school and I continued to push myself to I wanted to be the best. I wanted to have fun. I wanted to be the best. And so I went through architecture school. I then went into business school, and then coming out of business school, and I'm kind of giving you a long story short, but I realized that for any person, I was very inspired to start a business coming out of business school because I went to business school in Austin, Texas. Michael Dell was here. Here's this young kid who was selling computers out of the trunk of his car in his dorm room. And I thought, I'd love to see it be the female version of a Michael Dell. How do you create something of such great value as an entrepreneur in service to so many people? And in my case, I knew I wanted to be women and girls. But how do you do that? And so I was very inspired on that vision. But I often say starting a business for anyone is really, really tough, whether you're a man, woman, boy, girl, whatever. But for women and girls, there's a very distinct set of challenges that we face because so oftentimes you're the first one in your family or you're the first one in a community that has elevated to that leadership role. And you don't, as I was told, look like, act like, sound like, or talk like any of the CEOs or leaders, and that's changing now, but that historically people have been used to seeing. And so as I continue to learn, how do you build and grow? How do you navigate? How do you get through those challenges? I had companies that did really well. I had some companies that failed miserably. And it's in those failure moments that I learned a ton. But back in 2011, going back to my missionary roots, I paused and really asked myself, what does my whole life mean? Like, why am I here? Why have I done all these companies? Why have I had the experience I've had as a child? What does all of this mean? And I just heard very clearly, I was very inspired on that vision to empower 1 billion women by 2020. And that is to bring the tools, technology, and resources to women around the world, providing them access to mentors, financial literacy, mobility and networks through technology. And so I wanted to really create out a platform, which is now EBW 2020, that would demystify the process for women and girls of how do you start, grow, and scale that idea that's burning inside of you and do it in a way that can make money for you and doing the things that you love. So that's what we do. And that's what I've dedicated my life to. And one last thing that I'll leave you with is one thing that we learned this past year. Actually, I'll give you three things we learned. 90% of why women and girls don't start, grow, or scale a venture is because of lack of confidence. We're not sure what to do. We're not sure, who to turn to. And we get over that by taking action. We take action when we have mentors. But for women and girls, we found out just this past year that 80% of us want to be mentored by other women. And so I often say to women, as you continue to move forward and elevate in your career, it's our job to pay it forward and help other women, because there are so few of us that have ever gotten over the $1 million mark or raised venture capital or sat in those boardrooms. Like, that's very unique knowledge to have. And so at EBW, we've taken this knowledge and we figured out how do you scale it on this platform so that we can get it out to as many people as possible. And financial literacy is such an important piece of that, because 74% of why businesses never make it is because there's not a clear understanding of, first of all, how do I actually make money? And then when I'm making money, how do I secure, protect, and grow that money? And how do I give it back in a way that's going to make a difference for a lot of people? So those are some of the things that we really focus on here at EBW. And, I get up every single day just thinking, how can I talk to the Kellys of the world and get that message out to all the people that you're serving and collaborate and invite women and girls to be part of this movement?
Thank you for sharing that. And the whole time while you're explaining that, I know we were talking a little bit earlier about this too. There's just so much parallel in terms of our missions with the work that I do with youth, in the same way that I feel there's a need to demystify for youth how to grow as entrepreneurs, take that passion that's driving inside, where we want to have purpose, we want to make a meaningful difference through our careers or our work. But sometimes, again, that first step that we seek and that we need is often those mentors to help guide our way, to kind of show us the path. I'm curious to learn a little bit more about, you talked about some challenges growing up and a lot of individuals kind of telling you your limitations through your struggles. I'm wondering how much you feel that actually shaped who you are today as a leader. Do you find any of those experiences kind of fueling your fire, so to speak?
Yeah, Kelly, that's a great question, because I would say they totally define who I am today. Had I not had all of those naysayers when I was a child, and it was tough. I mean, like going through the 4th and 6th grade, I was sent off to a special school for kids that had learning challenges. And again, we ended up figuring out it was that I was having hearing problems. I couldn't hear very well, but I was teased. I was told I was the special kid, and that's kind of intimidating when you're going to a special school and you're told by those kids that you're special, sort of stick out. And then going into even the 7th grade and 8th grade, I mean, here I finally got through 6th grade and I was like, oh my gosh, we figured out it's hearing problems, and I was able to start thriving. And then I'm getting sent off to another school, and I was like the geekiest kid in school. I mean, my hair wasn't right. My face was breaking out. I mean, I was so unattractive and just felt so insecure about myself. And I just remember feeling like, like this beautiful, happy soul inside of me that was just waiting to, like, I literally every day I was like, God, please bring me friends that see me for more than how I look on the outside. And it's so funny because then as I got into 9th grade and I went into another school, and that was high school, I made the decisions that, what, if I'm just kind to people, if I'm just kind to everybody that I meet, that if somebody doesn't like me or they don't want to talk to me, that's like, it's not me, it's them. And so, and I ended up having lots of friends. And then as I got into college, I mean, I started coming into my own look and, and then it's just really interesting, because I think as I look back on my entire childhood, I'm like, it absolutely defined who I am today. I don't take things at face value. I have so much appreciation for kids and young people who might feel like they stick out like a sore thumb and they're different and they don't have friends. And I really want to hear, like, what are your ideas? Because I know for me, I had amazing, all these things that were just waiting to come out, all these ideas, but people wouldn't give me an opportunity because of how I looked. And it's funny because then, when I became a CEO, I had worked really hard to be in great shape and I'm wearing makeup and grow out my hair. And then the boys wanted to pick me up. And the first time I went to, raise money, the opposite thing happened. I was trying to raise money and I started wearing a fake wedding ring when I was in my 20s because then I was getting asked out all the time, and people weren't taking me seriously as a business owner. So I think where it all circles back, and what I'd just love to hear, or what I'd love to just share with everybody on here is just know that it was actually, it's those toughest moments that are the things that actually really define who you're going to be as a person. And are you going to let what other people tell you define who you are? Or are you going to take the deep breath and give yourself the opportunity to realize, just like Steve Jobs said, that whole quote about the crazy ones are the ones that go out there and really change the world. And it's like, we need all of you to bring your unique perspective, your individual talents, those burning desires, those entrepreneurial ideas that only you have. We need you to bring those out into the world. That is your gift to the world. And when you focus on bringing those ideas out to the world, I promise you, you are going to connect with people who have resources and capabilities, who love your ideas, who love your thinking, who are going to reach out to try to help you. So give it a shot. You just need to take the next step to walk past that fear zone and realize, oh my gosh, there's a whole group of us out there who have been where you are and are just waiting for you to show up. It totally, my younger years totally defined who I am today. Absolutely.
I like what you were saying about in your journey, how you felt like inside you were waiting to kind of sort of come out, but at the same time you weren't given the opportunities. So my question would be for other youth out there who similarly feel that burning desire and they know they want to have purpose and they see what they can be, but are limited in their communities or their families and friends for the opportunities. Is there a way that they can either seek them or create them themselves?
Yeah. And Kelly, again, another great question, because what I would suggest is, because I didn't have a lot of friends in school, during different times of my, going through school, I actually went to my teachers. I went to my teachers, and like, teachers and these older people who are there to teach you, like, they've dedicated their lives to helping young people and youth be everything you can be. And when a teacher sees a young person come to them and ask for help, ask for guidance, ask for mentorship, your teachers are a great place to go. For me, so when I was in the 4th and 6th grade, I fell in love with my art teacher, and my art teacher was married to my 4th grade classroom teacher, and I just loved her and I loved him. And, I really found great joy in actually spending more time with them. And I would, on recess and all of that, I would go into the art class, into the art studio, and I'd create art. And I formed this incredible friendship with those teachers. But the way that translated into enormous opportunity as I got older was when I got into high school. I had this love of art, and I just absolutely loved art. And once again, I just befriended my art teacher, Mrs. Dumont. And Mrs. Dumont, unbeknownst to me, took one of my art pieces and put it into an art competition. I didn't even know she did that. I ended up winning that art competition. And because I won that art competition, I got a scholarship to go to the Savannah College of Art and Design. Had I not gotten that scholarship, I would have never been able to go to that school. I would have had to stay close to my parents and at the University of Tennessee, which is a great school. It's where my parents were, but it was a school that we could afford. But instead, because I won a scholarship, I was able to go to this amazing art school and learn all about architecture. And I lived near the beach and I met all these creative types and really started to grow and thrive. And architecture and design is such a big part of who I am today. Building companies is very similar to building buildings. You're inspired with an idea and you're given a limited set of resources and you're told, go make something that's going to inspire people to want to be in the building or be in the business. It's very, very similar. But I have a lot of friends from the Savannah College of Art and Design, and that's all because as a youth, when I was very limited on who I could reach out to, I went and befriended my teachers and showed interest and asked them lots of questions, and they cared and they liked that I did that, and they reached out and they really helped me.
I see two themes in that. One is mentorship for sure, and then the second, asking a lot of questions, which I have found most recently, actually in my entrepreneurship journey, is actually a very valuable technique and tool. The more you ask questions, it's actually a great way to build relationships, and also in some sense in sales and deals, it actually works well too. So building that early works. With mentorship in mind, because I do believe that is a very valuable tool, because it allows you, like you said, to kind of step outside of your circumstances or box, to a new network perhaps. And I like to see them kind of like a compass. They kind of show you the way. What is the best entrepreneurship advice you've received in your career so far from a mentor?
Gosh, that's a big question. That's a great question, because I actually have a number of things that I've received in terms of advice. I would say, like, one of the things that sticks out to me the most, and that is really just totally related to what you just said, Kelly, is people who are mentors. So let me give an example. My first mentor was, or my first formal mentor, if you will. I've had mentors my whole life, my teachers, my parents, all of that. But the first person that I asked to specifically mentor me when I was building my first company was a guy named George Kosmetsky, and he had mentored Michael Dell. And this is a guy who he grew up so poor. He had, holes in the bottoms of his shoes, and he's a self-made guy and became this multi-billionaire, helping to create Dell. He created a company called Teledyne. He helped create Oracle. I mean, just this unbelievable person. And I'll never forget asking him, saying, why do you spend time with me? And why did you accept me as your mentee? And he said, because you ask a lot of questions and you listen to the advice that I give you. So the time that I spend with you, I know it's time well spent, because it'll really have an impact. And that's really important, because people that you're asking to mentor, they want to help. Like in George Kosmetsky's case, he had everything in the world that he could ever ask for. The thing he wanted to do most was make a difference. And the way he makes a difference is by building companies and mentoring people. And so they want you to ask questions. I want people to ask me questions. And then I want to know that feedback, you don't have to listen to everything I say or he says, but that you've taken it into consideration and it started forming the ideas that you have, so that I know that the time spent is time well spent, because it's having an impact. And I'll never forget a piece of advice he gave me when I asked him, and this was shortly before he passed away, because he was in his 80s when he was mentoring me, and I'm just such an amazing person. And I asked him, I said, Dr. K, is what I called him for short, what can I do to give back to you? And he said, I just want you to go out and be successful. And I never forgot that, because he didn't ask anything of me other than to go out and be successful. And by being successful, he didn't make this much money, go make this contact, build this kind of company. He didn't say that at all. He just left it at be successful. And success to him was live the life you really imagine for yourself. Continue to push, continue to get mentors, continue to bust through walls when everybody else tells you it can't be done. Continue to bring your individuality out into the world and be that gift to the world. Continue being that success. That's all he asked. And so oftentimes, especially when I'm feeling like I've got a really tough day And I just think back to him and I say, okay, just be successful. That's all successful people want of all the rest of us, is just to go out and be successful. So that's something that always sticks out. I'll share just a couple other pieces of advice. Another mentor told me, Ivy, my nickname, said, you're going to make mistakes. And we all know that. We all make mistakes. But imagine there's a pothole in the road. And, you as an entrepreneur, you're going to go through the pothole, ka-gunk, and you're going to fall in, and then you're going to crawl out. And you're going to talk to us as mentors, and we're going to say, go around the pothole and you're going to fall in, and then how do you get out? And he said, but as mentors, we're going to see you go into that hole and we're going to watch you. How did you get out? Okay. Now, the second time you come up on that pothole, what are you going to do? Are you going to go around it? Are you going to fall into it? What did you learn the next time? And this mentor said, if you go to the pothole the third time and you still fall in the pothole, then we've got a problem. He said, but every time you face a challenge, just know that those are there and we've all gone through them. What we're looking for is, how do you navigate around it? How do you pick yourself up when you just don't want to do anything and wipe your knees off and keep moving forward? How are you going to do that? Because that's what defines successful people, is how many times are you going to fall down and then pick yourself back up and continue to go on again. And then the final thing I'll mention is all related to this, which is, it is, people ask me, what is the number one piece of advice that I could ever give to anyone? And it is, go out and get yourself a mentor. Get yourself somebody that really cares about you, your success, what you're doing, and give them that opportunity to connect with you and work with you and give back through you. Because not only are you giving them a huge gift, but this is something that will be game-changing in your own life and career. So those are three things I would mention. They're all related.
The pothole story is interesting, because I think one of the challenges that many young entrepreneurs, or just in general, when you work with the mentors, you're right, you won't always agree with the advice, or sometimes, no matter how many times they tell you to avoid that pothole, you actually have to fall in it yourself before you realize it.
Yeah.
In my experience, I've found that where it's kind of like, yeah, but that's not going to happen to me, or no, I have enough, I see things differently, it will be okay. And then you still end up somehow finding your way in the pothole that they warned you about. And I think you're right. It's about learning from that, and then even if you fall into a second time, maybe you get out of it a little bit different each time, and it's how you get out that you're evolving too. But yeah, I like that point, because it's right. Sometimes it's okay to fall into the pothole.
Yeah, we're all going to fall into the pothole. And, if you're not innovating, if you're not pushing yourself, I mean, you hear the quote oftentimes when people talk about like being an entrepreneur, you're like jumping off this cliff and hoping your wings are going to like grow on the way down. There's no clear path. And when you're innovating, if you're doing what everybody else is doing, there's a very clear path. And you kind of know, oh, there's a pothole coming, oh, because you're doing what everybody else is doing. But when you're innovating, you're trying new things. You're busting through walls, and you're going down paths that either nobody's gone down or very few people have gone down, and you're going to run into potholes. It will happen. And that's okay. I've never met anyone in my entire life that has had a totally smooth ride. I'm not saying people don't get lucky. Look at Mark Zuckerberg. He got really, really lucky. He came up with a great idea with Facebook. But even him, those early days, all you have to do is watch those movies on Facebook. I mean, he was hitting pothole after pothole after pothole. And there were so many times when that idea could have died on the vine. And he just kept going. So it's like the most successful people in the world are going through the potholes too, because they're all innovating just like the rest of us. And it's what do you learn? How quick do you get up and move around and learn from that so that you don't repeat that? But like with Empowering a Billion Women by 2020, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, you guys have been so successful and it's happening overnight. And it actually isn't. It's been going on since 2011. And I think it's important, just like you said, that ideas do take time. And the thing, my gift and then my vice is complete lack of patience. And so that can be challenging sometimes because I want to see us reaching the billion women today. And that's not possible. It's a step-by-step approach. So the way to tackle any idea, big or small, is keep your eye on the goal. Where are you going? And then start working backwards on a plan of, okay, what do I need to get there? So when I first started out with Empowering a Billion Women by 2020 and 2011, I knew the only way that I was going to reach a billion women was through technology. And at the time, like now, mobile devices are in the hands, phones, these devices are in the hands of most everyone around the world. But in 2011, that wasn't necessarily the case. So my first thought was, how do I get a device into the hands of women around the world and then get them onto a platform so that we create, that gives them access to those tools, tech, and resources that will help them move the ball forward. And so with all of that, I started developing a plan, and I started thinking about who could be that partner of mine. And going back to the Michael Dell days and being here in Austin, Texas, I was very inspired with Dell. They were doing and continue to do great work around the world to help women grow and thrive. And I really wanted to partner with them. So then I started focusing on, how do I create a big opportunity for Dell so that they will want to partner with me and create an opportunity together. So everything's about, what's the plan? Where are you going? How do you break that down sort of year by year? Then, one way to look at it is, I always think, what am I going to do over this next 12 months? What am I going to do in the next 6 months? What am I going to do in the next 3 months? Then I take it down to, what am I going to accomplish this month? And I break it all the way down to, what am I going to get done this week? And then every single day that I get up, I have a list. And, for example, this is my list today. I write down a list of, regardless of anything else that happens today, here are the things that I need to get done. So it's all about taking those baby steps forward. But when you have it in sightline of a plan, then, oftentimes I think I don't get everything done that I wanted to for the week. I don't accomplish all of the goals. And it allows you to say, oh, this worked, this didn't. How do I modify for next week? And so if you've got a plan in place, you can see what works, what doesn't, how do I need to modify it so I can keep moving things forward. And a mentor can help you develop what that plan can look like, so that you've got an idea of, who are the people I want to partner with? What are reasonable expectations on goals of what I can accomplish, and so on.
Well, I want to just thank you for taking the time to share some of your insights with us today. For those of you listening, it's your turn. What do you think? Add your thoughts to the discussion using the hashtag Bridging the Gap. And give this podcast a thumbs up if you like some of the comments and advice that has been shared today.